My friends over at Roosevelt's, they make the most incredible shirts. And they have everything from Disney to The Office to Jurassic Park, WWE, and everything pop culture. Nickelodeon, Nicktoons. My son and I fight over the shirts that we get shipped to us. Use promo code SWOGGLE. Save 20% off any order, from button-ups to hoodies to activewear, everything. Guys, go to roosevelts.com. RSVLTS.com. Use promo code SWOGGLE. Save yourself 20% on everything. RSVLTS.com.
Hey guys, once again, another episode of your favorite, my favorite, George's half favorite podcast, Going Postl, right here. I'm Dylan. That's my ride-along buddy who's never ridden with me, George. And today, this show is brought to you by our friends over at the Roosevelt Clothing Company. Head over to rsvlts.com and use promo code SWOGGLE to save yourself some cash on the most comfortable, most trendy, most character-driven, I guess. That's probably, I don't know. There's a lot of characters that they represent on their clothing.
Cool
really
patterns.
Sweet button-ups. Really sweet polos. Awesome performance hoodies. I'm Dylan, that's George. George, what do you got for him?
Guys, today we're talking about a very, very awesome topic because the man that you just heard speaking wrote a book, which is not something that a lot of people can say that they've done. Huge accomplishment for him. So today, the topic is all things Dylan's book. Maybe the first of many. Who knows? We've joked about it on this podcast and back when it was the Patreon exclusive show that maybe there's another book in the works, a parenting book, a cartoony book. Who knows? But today we're talking all things life is short and so am I. But before we go on with that, make sure to follow all forms of social media at Going Postl Pod. That's the podcast. And then make sure to go and follow at Dylan Postl. That's Swoggle's social media. And then youtube.com/Dylan Postl. You can get the video version of this podcast. If you're listening to the audio version, thank you. We appreciate it. We love you. But if you want to get the free video version, youtube.com/Dylan Postl. If you want to watch Dylan play video games, eventually when he goes back to doing
Guys, it's coming back.
It's the Jackbox streams and all that.
It's coming back.
You can go and do that at twitch.tv/Dylan Postl. Of course, swoggleauction.com. Get yourself a free $10 in Whatnot credit. And guys, I will be the first to admit I kind of messed up. Things got moved around. Priorities got shifted. So this week, the new DylanPostl.com will be launching. We had some technical difficulties. We had to shift some domain things around. I'll spare you the boring details, but we will be launching that the week that you are hearing this episode. It may even be launched before you hear this episode. Who knows? But that will be the one-stop shop for all things Swoggle. And of course, if you want to get Swoggle shirts, you got to go
to ProWrestlingTees.com/Dylan Postl. Nope.
There you go.
Nope, it's not that.
It's not.
ProWrestlingTees.com/Swoggle. That's it.
It is that. That's it.
I tried to get my yelling in, and I really...
But that's why we're going to have the new website. We'll have the one website, and then there'll just be a link to shirts. And then there'll be another link to merch, which is...
It's like a sweet park
big cartoon
map.
Yeah.
It'll just... Like a sweet park map. You can just...
The DylanPostl.com is just going to be... You go there, you get links to everything for all things Swoggle content. That's where you're going to go. But... with that, my friend, is there anything else that you want to talk about before we get into the fact that you wrote a book?
Yes. You mentioned the Whatnot swoggleauctions.com. And here's this last week's Whatnot. If you were not a part of it, it was probably the craziest Whatnot we've ever had.
You tried to rip your shirt?
I tried to rip the shirt. Guys, I can't rip a shirt that's not pre-cut, I've realized. And then I almost stabbed myself in the chest with the scissors.
Thanks to David C. Anderson for posting that clip on.
It was a great clip.
Whew,
it was a
that
really
was great.
Good clip.
Might have to ask him if we can borrow that to post on social media.
Yep. I'll get that clip. But steals, people getting elites for under $20. But then I had this Little Bastard rookie card or Little Bastard card, one of 3 pieces of Little Bastard merch out there, and it went for and it just kept rising in price. So I promised, all right, if it hits this amount, I'll rip the shirt. If it hits this amount, I'm doing another giveaway. We had 2 giveaways that night for absolutely free. It was awesome. So head over. We're doing it once a month. 1 stream on Whatnot a month. Swoggleauction.com. Get yourself some cash for free to use on Whatnot.
Hell yes. Well, with that, I think it's time for us to head on in to talk about all things book. It's book time. You know what? This is the name of this episode. We're going to call it Book Club. That's it. This is the Book Club episode. Book it.
Mad Cat Beard Care, they are the absolute best. They make my beard feel soft, silky, smooth. But not only that, they've been a one-man show since 2019. Mad Cat Beard Care uses a portion of sales to care for local stray cats, cover their medical bills, find safe spaces, and forever homes. Their products are made to order with vitamins and all natural oils that promote strong, healthy hair and moisturize your skin as well. Mad Cat Beard Care has exclusive scents for myself as well as other wrestlers, such as a childhood favorite of mine, Delirious, Ring of Honor legend with his lime and French vanilla scent that makes my beard smell and feel amazing. And of course, make sure to try my exclusive scent, Swoggled, with notes of lavender and sage. And guys, make sure to use promo code SWOGGLED to save 15% on your whole order at madcatbeardcare.com. And remember, the Mad Cat makes a happy beard.
All right. Whenever you're ready, sir, take us away. The name of the book, Life is Short and So Am I.
Guys, this was it. This is probably my most proud of project I've done on my own, but by on my own I mean outside of WWE. And it was really just a always kind of a bucket list project that I never thought would happen. And I always wanted to tell my story, and I always thought, hey, with my growing up and my surgeries and just life, I always had a decent story to tell. And through this podcast, I've gotten into things more. But I had never, first off, you guys know, when it comes to projects, especially my own, I don't like doing them. So when the thought
except to this podcast, right? You love doing this podcast.
I love this.
You look forward to it.
But
every time.
Actual work for myself, I don't like doing. So I was like, I know me. I'm not going to write a book myself. So I get released, and pretty quick after that, Ian Douglas, who's from Michigan, reaches out to me in an email and says, hey, I'm a writer. I would love to write an autobiography for you or with you. And I was in. I didn't realize what that would entail. And that what that entailed is for 3 weeks, multiple days a week, for about 3 hours at a time, just doing interviews about me in my life over the phone. And literally, I would plug in my phone on my bed and just lay on my bed and talk. And it was a very eye-opening experience, and that whole session was very like therapeutic to a point, and almost a release of all, that was like almost a release for WWE stuff. I'll get to later the second version of therapy, but it was cool. It was cool to relive moments in my life and relive stories and all that. Um, and then we started pitching the book. Ian and I started pitching the book out to publishing companies and such, and literary agents and that. I didn't know what a literary agent was, but I guess you needed to have one to then go to a publishing company. So it's just kind of crazy how writing a book is obviously not just paper to pen, put it to print, publish it. There's so many steps in between that I would have had no idea about.
So for you,
Yep.
the what would you say, obviously besides the fact of talking about yourself and making, very clearly making this something that is about you, was the more daunting task getting past that mental barrier, or was it the tediousness of having to do all the interviews and have all the conversations? Because from this podcast, and our friendship talks off the podcast, you're someone who likes to, you're not shy. You have an outgoing personality. You're good to conversation. You're like me. You never shut up.
It wasn't that was hard. That's going to come harder later. So, we have the book. We have it ready. We have it set. We have a literary agent. We have a publishing company. And then, that was a good year of messing around, I want to say. Could be wrong. Probably am. Felt like a year. But then the literary agent comes to me and says, hey, and I've never really talked about this. They say, hey, you're going to have to handle this, but I think we need to find a new writer. And I go, what do you mean? First off, why do I have to handle this? And they're like, yeah, it's good, but we need it to be great. And I go, again, why do I need to handle this? They go, here's a writer we have a suggestion of, and it was this guy Ross Owen Williams out of the UK. And I was like, so what does this mean? Like, do we need to do the whole thing from the start? What, like? And again, they were like, we'll put you in contact with Ross. Just let Ian know that, hey, we're gonna still credit him, but we're gonna go with Ross for the project. And it was like, oh, again, why am I handling this? Why am I the one writing?
Yeah, it puts you in a very awkward, uncomfortable
awkward spot. So I did, and then we got Ross on board, and Ross and I instantly clicked. I don't know what it was, but we instantly had a very, very, very good relationship. But again, it was hours over the phone. He's in the UK. I'm here. So the time difference is brutal. I think we would do it like noon my time or so. So it was after he put his kids to bed. But again, it was, all right, plug the phone in, lay on the bed, and we're doing it again. And it was almost like he went off Ian's notes for a few things, but I think it was just to kind of get a concept of my story, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And then, but he really dug deep into things. I talk about it in there, my relationship with my mom, who was not, I'll say it on here, she wasn't a good person, my birth mom. She was a very, very, I say was, like she's passed away. She's not, but she's just not in my life. She was just not good. the bottle ran her life. She put that at most importance over her kids, over me, obviously, over the family. After my parents got divorced, it was really rough. And so and there was times I literally would sit back and go to Ross, like, should I say this? He goes, it's your book. You say whatever you want. And I would very much go like, who do I want to protect? Who do I not give a shit about protecting? But a lot of the times it was, hey, let's go hard. And be honest. So I was very, very honest with the whole book. My relationship with my first main relationship, Anne. There was some things in there that I included that were very, very controversial, you could say. Even in the part that got out, that ended up releasing. But we edited. I sent it to her out of respect to her. I sent it to her. Landon's mom, Kim, I sent it to her about that stuff with her. I got a message back of, this is kind of heavy. And I go, yeah, but I got to be honest. I said, I'm putting myself out there. And
it's your story.
I can't hold back. I said, this isn't a burial by any means. It shows that we had issues, and now raising him, we're past that, and we're better people. And then it was like, man, talking about my grandpa and the end of his life was such I don't think I have ever cried in my adult life more than I had when I was telling that story. And then I'll talk about the audiobook a little later. But during that, it was, but again, dealing with it with Ross, the audio or the recordings for the ghostwriting with Ross was a very therapeutic, letting it all out and just being okay with it point. I remember as a teenager, I went to a therapist for a month, and it was complete. I took it as complete shit. I didn't take it seriously at all. So this was the first time I ever was like the very therapeutic feeling. I've never had it. I've never had that kind of feeling in my life of when I was talking with Ross and just telling everything and just spilling it all out there and really, really letting loose of everything. And it was good. It felt so good. And then it was funny thinking about forwards and thinking about pictures of the book and thinking about the cover and all of that. I knew one thing I wanted was for 2 forwards. I wanted Kofi and Hawkins to do the forwards. They're my best friends in wrestling. And ECW Press was like, hey, could we get John Cena? And I was like, I'm not asking John Cena. I want Kofi and Hawkins. They're like, well, what about a Mick Foley? And I was like, I want Kofi and Hawkins. And I was not budging on it.
Did they just want that for name value, or was there
when you put them on the cover of a book, forward by John Cena, forward by Mick Foley, it's big. And I was like, no, I don't want that. I want these 2. The other caveat to that was I did not want to see the forwards until the book released. And these 2 guys questioned it. ECW Press questioned it. The literary agency questioned it. Ross Owen Williams, the ghostwriter, especially after seeing them, questioned it. And it was and they all, I remember ECW Press for me, because I had to, moving forward a bit, when the book was done and ready to publish, they were like, hey, we're going to send you it so you can look over it and any notes you have. And they sent it to me with the forwards. And I was so pissed off because I was like, guys, I don't want to see these. I don't want any chance of seeing these. And I sent it back and I said, you need to send it to me without the forwards. And it was, they were blown away. They were like, well, we don't get why. I said, because I want to be surprised like the readers. This is the one thing I can be surprised with about this book, like the readers. And it was. And then we got Mick Foley to write a blurb on the back, which is really awesome for him to do. And the cover, I was like, I had this idea in mind for a cover for the book where it's me in the ring and then Hornswoggle coming from under. And it was just like all these ideas I had over time, and that they actually like they came to life and they came to fruition in the suit that doesn't fit me well, but I had to have a suit for the photo. And it's stuff like that that I think that's why I take this project so close to heart, is because I had a lot of ideas for it and almost all of them were used. But it was really cool too for some of the photos inside. We wrote to WWE and asked them permission, because you have to, obviously, to use certain photos of theirs, and they wrote off on it. And we sent them the photos that we wanted, and they wrote off on them completely. It wasn't even like a question of it. It was instant, like, yep, you're good. And that's what I kind of go back to of what my dad has always told me, like, hey, don't burn bridges. If I would have burned that bridge, I wouldn't have had any of those photos. It would have been like crappy photos that we would have found on Google or whatnot, and it just would not have turned out the way we wanted it to.
Now, going back to the cover and the title of the book, so you said you had ideas, you had plans. So the title of the book, Life is Short and So Am I, that's all you.
That's all me. They gave me options. I can't even think of the options they gave me. I would have to look back through emails. But they gave me options, and again, I was with a project like this, and I never was so like dead set on something like I was for this. And it's because I was like, man, if I'm going to create a book and I'm going to put a book out there about my life, I want it to be as much from me as possible. And I wasn't budging on certain things.
So the subhead, My Life Inside, Outside, and Under the Wrestling Ring.
That was them.
I was going to say that. I feel like in my head, you pitched a less polished version of that. Like you had the idea of saying, because like when we started doing this podcast, way long ago, that was pretty much the pitch, is that like, I want to talk about my life as a wrestler, my life, as a dad and as a parent and everything that goes outside of wrestling. And then I remember jokingly you said, and plus I've got a couple of funny stories from things that happened under the ring. And I was like, well, that's a great elevator pitch. Like it's 100%. Perfect.
That was not me. I want to say that might've been Ross, because I don't think that came from them. That might've been Ross.
Okay.
I don't remember. And Ross will message me. I'm gonna make sure he listens to this one if he doesn't listen already. But that might have been Ross. I can't think.
Trying to think of how I could hear this in your head. Like I almost think that you like you would probably say, "Life is short, and so am I." Tales, like you. I feel like you would be like tales from inside, outside, and under the ring.
Maybe tales from under the ring, if anything. But
yeah, I'm sorry, like the words that you would use.
Yeah, I don't even think I had that. I think I literally just came up with the regular title, and that was it.
They do love those subheads.
Yeah, and some of them are really good, and some of them are like, oof, okay. Also, a cool thing like that Ross did. I'm looking through the book now. I've never actually looked through it in person, except the first time I held it. But like Ross was really. Like, he wanted it to be, if you look at the book, which is available, guys, DylanPostl.com. You can get autographed copies of it. Yes, you can go to Amazon, but you can't get autographed copies on Amazon. DylanPostl.com. Get your copies of Life is Short and So Am I. I literally ship them, sign them instantly myself. But he wanted it, like, as with the chapters, he wanted what the chapters like represented. And it's really, really neat how he did it. He categorized the chapters with a like an item or something like that, and it was a very like all encompassing of what that chapter and that's part of my life was about. And
There's
really,
only one that's not.
what is it? Hold on.
The preface is just the date. Everything else, like
Oh,
chapter
yeah, when I got
1, chapter
fired.
2, is the
Yep. Yeah, that's right.
May 23rd,
That was another thing, man.
2006.
Oh, 2006. Is that when I got? No, that's when I got hired, not fired.
That's when you got hired. Yeah,
When I
it's
got
the
hired.
it's the preface. It's the it's the first thing.
Yeah, that was another weird thing of reliving my firing. I never really relived that in detail, and that was rough. So we sell this to ECW Press. They're all on board. Literary agencies all on board. We're good. We're all on board. We're all ready to go. And then they go, yeah, with it is a audiobook. And I go, not by me. And they go, well, why? I go, I hate my voice. I hate my voice. I hate the sound of it. I hate all of it. I don't want to do it. And they're like, well, it would really mean a lot for like listeners and reader, like purchasers of it
100%.
if it's you. And I had to have a talked with Weimer, and I talked with Binder, and I talked with my dad, and they're all like, yes, you have to do this.
It's a big difference if it was like Dylan wrote a story and they wanted you to read the story that you wrote.
Yes.
That's one thing. But this is literally the story of your life.
And that's
who better to be the voice behind it than you?
And that was what Weimer said. He goes, no one can tell your story but you. And I go, all right, here we go. So they were going to fly me to like New York for a week. And I was like,
oh, to like be in an audio booth.
Yeah. And I was like, guys, I can't do that. I'm on the road. Cause this is when I was on the road every weekend for shows. Cause I was fresh off WWE still. And I was like, I physically can't do that with my son, with my schedule. I cannot do that. Is there anything closer? They go, well, we have one in I think it was like they found one then in California, New York, Texas, and then like randomly they're like, oh, there's one in Madison. I go, God.
Oh, you mean there's one in the state that I live in? Yeah, that would be the most convenient option for me.
An hour from my house? Like, okay, great. But that was just one of those things. Like, I realized I had to push on things. I had to push on certain things. And then we got it. So we found a recording studio in Madison, which is like an hour and 15 from my house. But I didn't care. It was a nice, relaxing drive there and back. I think we did it 3 times a week for 3 weeks. Okay. So it was a lot. But it would be a teleprompter in front of me. And I would just read chapter after chapter after chapter. And that's when it got like painful to read about my grandpa through my words. And I still can hear like, because there's a producer, an audio mixologist and she was
someone probably
nice.
Way more qualified than I am.
Audio and she was so nice and so like, but it was almost like when you take like a hearing test or something and there's like that person in your headphones but from another room. I don't know if you've ever taken a hearing test, but
when you're I would imagine it's probably a lot of when you are recording any kind of like instruments. You have someone in your head like, oh, we're going to do that part again, or we're going to do this part again, or you mess this.
But you don't see them. Like it's very odd. It's very odd because they're very soft and they're just okay. Hey, we messed up on a word, and you see the thing go back, and it became like a good relationship between her and I where I was like, I would see the thing pause and I'd go, shit, messed that up. And I would see it scroll back down. But it was really, really, I'm glad I did it. But yeah, there was parts, the chapter about my grandpa towards the end, about him passing away. It was so hard to get through. And so like, oh man, that's the most I've cried easily. But she was like so sympathetic and so like, hey, if you need time. I said, nope, I'm just gonna do it. I said, do you want me to like compose myself? She goes, no, this is better because it's you. I said, awesome. And it was just like, it was that was the final therapy, and that was the final closure I needed on that. And it's not like I'm past him passing away, or I'm past how shitty my birth mom was, but I'm like, I'm okay with it now. I'm just okay with, hey, that's what I dealt with. That's what I went through. And now I'm here. And now I'm just very glad I did it. Thinking about it now, I am so glad. And she would like do a playback of my voice sometimes, and I would have to go, nope, stop. I don't want to hear it, because and I felt like such a jerk because I just don't like the sound of my voice so much. And she was doing it just so she could hear back, but it would come through my headphones, and I would literally at times take the headphones off because I hate hearing my voice. But it was her listening if a sentence was messed up or a word was messed up. But yeah, I'm very glad I did the audio recording, and I get people when they get on Audible or wherever they get it, and they're like, man, I can't believe that you did it. It's really, really good that you did it because it made us think that it's what you went through. Thinking back on it, I'm very glad like Jim Smith didn't do the recording of my book.
So again, going back to that, it's who better to be the voice of your story than you?
Yeah. If I wouldn't have done it, I would have been so mad at myself and so like, man, why would you let someone else tell your story? Why would you're that affected by something like this, and a project that's supposed to be so meaningful to you? I would have been very, very upset about it. So I'm very glad I did it myself. Looking at the book again, I got sidetracked there. Another cool thing Ross did in it is every chapter has like what they call, and this is the video version, you can see what has like what's short stories that are part of that section as well. Here's the main story, and then there's like a little break of telling about Hawkins's wedding when I fell down the stairs on purpose, and a certain straight edge guy thought it was me being intoxicated, and it wasn't. It was literally set up the whole time, but it went viral, and so much so that Talent Relations called me and said, oh man, making a real ass out of yourself on that, huh? And I was like, no, it was set up. It was part of it. But it was stuff like that little stories I would tell that Ross would jot down that would be like, oh, it might not fit during a main part of the book, but I can make it fit in a section of it, and like make it essentially like an Easter egg for a DVD bonus feature.
And to think about that out of context of the book, that's more or less what this podcast is.
Yeah.
It's just, we have a topic, we talk loosely about the topic, and then randomly we go off on tangents because something will spark a memory. We'll tell a story. You'll tell a story for 10, 15 minutes, and then we go back to the topic.
And a lot of the times forgetting completely about what topic we were on if it's me.
What? No, that's never happened on this podcast. We've never gone off on a 15 to 20 minute tangent about something else.
Diatribe, and then you
what
go,
are you talking
guys,
about?
we're supposed to be talking about Pokemon.
Pokemon, I will never let you live down the cereal weight championship episode where we're talking about your cruiserweight
Oh, that's
title
what it was.
run
That's what it was.
and then had a 15-minute argument about cereal.
Oh.
And you know what the worst? You know what the worst part about it? We're doing it now.
Yeah, I
it's
know.
happening right now, and I'm
yeah.
aware that we're doing it now.
It was, yeah, man. That one took a real hard turn.
I do have a question.
Yes.
What? So obviously the photo shoot for the cover.
Mm-hmm.
You talked about earlier. You in the suit. You in the Swoggle gear under the ring. Is that shot at ACW?
Yeah.
Okay, I was gonna say, was it? So
Literally,
that's like an extra layer of
that's
like
another
cool
thing
detail.
I wanted. Yeah, I was like, let's do it before an ACW show. I'll know the ring, and I was like, I literally just had a local photographer, BJ Fleming. I was like, hey, I need you to shoot the rock, because we were doing roster photos that day too, and I was like, but I also need you to shoot what might be the cover for my book. And he goes, okay. And so I had the idea, and we did it before the show, and it was done.
I always was wondering, like, oh,
yeah,
I wonder if that's ACW, and you know who was the photographer that shot that. If it was someone that you knew, if it was just if ECW Press had sent someone to take the photo. So it was another layer that I wanted to tackle today on the episode.
So then we go to like the release, and I talked to the D League basketball arena in town. I know the book is coming out, and I know that we have an event. ACW has an event at the local D League basketball arena, and I was like, hey, what if we did the book release that day, like that afternoon? The book release, I said I didn't want the book to be available before it came out in my town. I wanted the first time it being available in Oshkosh. And it's just, again, one of those things where I always talk about how much Oshkosh and this like community means to me. In every interview I mention it. It's like a weird habit I have. And I really, really think that it needed to be done, and so we did it. We talked to the arena, and we were like, hey, this is going to be, it was in the papers, all that. This is going to be the release of my autobiography. And Weimer set up this whole like meeting room for a meet and greet up there with like pictures and things from my life. And it was great. It was really, really awesome. And it was a cool thing. It really made me feel like people from my family that I haven't seen in years and years, they came out, and it was just the first time I was okay with something being about me, if that makes sense. And I was like, yeah, this is pretty awesome that I can,
as someone has done this podcast with you for little over 2 years now. Yeah, I get that. It is sometimes a struggle to get you to do things for you.
I don't like it. But it was a very, very cool day, and it was a neat thing that we were able to put together. And that day, I literally sliced open a case of books that they sent me to release. And I went under the bleachers in the arena, and I read the forewords to the book. And I was like, oh man. That was another emotional moment of crying and then laughing and then crying and then laughing. Hawkins's forward being so heartfelt and so like just nice and caring and really making me feel good. And Kofi's forward being just an absolute goddamn roast of me. And then I texted them in a group chat. I texted them. I said, you guys got me crying and laughing and then crying from laughing all in one. And I cannot thank you enough. And Hawkins goes, I thought it was supposed to be this heartfelt forward. And Kofi goes, I did not want it to be that way. I wanted it to be honest. And
You got a good mix. It's a good blend of both.
And I was like, man, to start the book out with that was so perfect because it shows two sets of my life that couldn't be more perfect. And I was so happy and so excited about that. And I was like, man, this is it. And now I'm okay with it. And it was it ended up being a kind of crazy thing. It ended up being a #1 pre-order on Amazon for like 2 or 3 weeks in a row. And that's a big deal for me. I just like, and that was pre-order. That wasn't even like sales. And I just, man, it's such a passion project. That's how I really describe it. It's such a passion project that really, it was a bucket list thing that I never thought would happen.
Guys, let me talk to you about our friends over at Manscaped, bringing you the absolute best in men's below-the-waist grooming. Manscaped makes precision-engineered tools for your family jewels. The Performance Package is the ultimate bundle in men's hygiene. Join over 7 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with this exclusive offer for our listeners. 20% off and free shipping worldwide when you use promo code SWOGGLE at manscaped.com. That's promo code SWOGGLE at manscaped.com for 20% off your order and free shipping. Wait, if my math is correct, 7 million men carry the two... That's 14 million balls. All right.
So I want to do a little word association with two names, because if you go in Google, you look up Hornswoggle, Dylan Postl, you get some information about the book. We've talked about a couple of names, obviously the man himself, Dylan. We talked about Kofi, we talked about Brian, but now there are two other names. So there's public endorsement by one Dolph Ziggler. Tell me about that.
To have my friends that are at such a high level in wrestling, and just how I view them so highly, talk about, again, such a project that I did and that we finally put out. Man, again, I talk about how like long it felt for this to come out. It felt like 10 years for it to finally happen. And it was out there, and it was we sent advanced copies to people, and for people that I care about in my life and that are friends to go on social media and post about it made me feel so good. And it was like actual real like responses to the book. And Dolph, who is a constant giver of a hard time back and forth. He's a very sarcastic human, but it's how he is. And him and I are that way. We always have been. He's like that with everyone. But for him to really put such a heartfelt post out there, it really, really made me feel good. And it really made me feel like, man, this is good. And then I think I know where you're going with this.
Well, then take it away, sir. I don't need to lead you in if you know where it's going.
It was like, I don't know the timeline, but then Stephanie McMahon, out of nowhere, puts out a tweet about it. And that was mind-blowing. Because at that point, she was at the top of wrestling. At the top of wrestling. And for her to tweet about my book was unreal. And then she sent me a message about it, and it was like, this is crazy to me. Crazy to me that this project, whether she read, and here, let's be honest, whether she read it or not, she said something very, very nice about me and about the project. And it really, really was cool for that to happen. Because, again, at that point, she had a lot on her plate. The last thing she needed to do was tweet about little old Dylan's book.
It's cool. It's really, really cool. It's again, it's something that I had in the notes coming into today because we have talked about it. I don't know if it's ever come up on the podcast, but if it has, I'm forgetting what episode. But I know that you and I separately off the podcast have talked about it. So I wanted to make sure that we touched upon it because it is, again, super, super cool, super, super awesome thing that happened. Man, I can't encourage anyone enough to go and read this book. Yes, you can go on Kindle, you can go on Amazon, you can get it. But if you're going to get the book, you might as well buy it from the man himself. Go and get it from Dylan Postl, dylanpostel.com. Buy it, get a personalized version. And then if you really want, you can just flip along with the audio version. And
a cool thing, a few months ago, someone brought this up to Hawkins. I was doing a signing with Hawkins, and they brought my book up to him to get signed. And it was one of those,
ooh.
Oh, that's really cool. And I physically saw him get taken aback by it because he's never wrote a forward. Obviously, that's not something he does in his day-to-day life. So for him to do have to autograph the forward took him back too, and it was really, really neat to see.
I wonder, do you think there's anybody? So your new goal is to get a signed copy where you sign it, Kofi signs it, and Brian signs it.
Listeners, that's your new goal. Your goal.
Oh, I'm saying you should do that. I think you need that because that's awesome for you to have.
No, because I don't ever have anything signed by myself besides a card.
All right. Well, then just have the version that you have in the case behind you. Just get that version.
Oh, I do need that signed by them. Oh my God, I definitely need that signed by them. I never thought about this till today.
And then maybe if you want to do another version, maybe that ends up being something that you put up on Whatnot, or you do you use it for the ACW toy drive or something.
Oh my God, that's great. Well, listeners, you too. Your job.
I want to do that now.
Your job. When Kofi Kingston does very few signings, get him, get Hawkins, and get me. If someone makes it happen, if someone out there makes it happen, a prize pack of astronomical proportions is coming your way. First person to do it. That would be awesome. That'd be awesome.
I can't believe you never thought to do that.
I guarantee Kofi has never signed one. I have to text him after this. I guarantee he's never signed one. If I'm going to a Kofi Kingston signing, the last thing I'm thinking of is my book, because there's so many other things out there. I guarantee he's never. That's awesome,
Interesting.
man. I have
That's a cool idea.
Yep.
So that's on your list, and then obviously, listeners, get out there, try to get it. Like Swoggle said, Kofi does limited signings, but could be worth it.
Such a niche item. I love niche items. So for that's such a cool. That would be such a cool thing to have. Hell yeah.
Ooh. I see the wheels turning in your head about.
Yeah, I gotta do it now.
Happen.
I never thought about this. I gotta do it now. I gotta have my personal copy signed by them.
All right.
Awesome.
Well, final words, man. Anything else that you want to cover about the book? I feel like we've done a good job covering the process leading up to the book. Obviously, if you want the full story of the book, go and read the book. But this was a cool episode leading up into everything, and a little peek behind the curtain about how your experience writing your first book was.
Yeah, it really was a. I keep saying it, but it was very a therapeutic thing, and I'm very glad I did it. And I'm also very glad I took the time to edit it, and because I didn't want to. I was just gonna nope, just do it however you want. But there was some things in there where, out of respect for things and people I talked about, and issues I talked about, where I did pull back a little bit, very little bit. But man, like I'm very, very proud of this project. I'm very, very happy about doing it, and yeah, that's it.
All right. Well, again, make sure to go follow us on all forms of social media at Going Postl Pod. Make sure to follow the man himself at Dylan Postl on all forms of social media. Guys, for the free video version, along with the full video archive, unboxings, and more, available youtube.com/Dylan Postl, twitch.tv/Dylan Postl. He's going to be going live eventually, soon, within the next couple of weeks. He's a busy man, but he'll be playing games on there, probably getting his ass kicked by Landon and all of the wrestling games. SwoggleAuction.com. Get yourself a free $10 credit on whatnot. You can use that on Swoggle's monthly auctions. And again, ProWrestlingTees.com/Swoggle and the new and improved DylanPostl.com coming soon. We plugged it at the beginning of this podcast. I'm going to do it again. It will be live within the next couple of days, potentially before this episode even comes out. So make sure to go and check that out. Dylan, is there anything else that you want to plug? Did I miss anything? Is there anything happening in the wonderful world of ACW that you would like to plug?
Right after this comes out, we have our show at in partnership with the ACW Timber Rattlers, the AAA baseball team. And then that Sunday, we have a show at Bare Bones Brewery. It's our summer tradition. But then we're back at the Masonic Center in October. But my full schedule will be up on DylanPostl.com when I send George my dates.
Oh,
but
wait,
George,
how are we not talking about this?
But
you got a comedy show in November.
I have 3 of them. I'm taking a chance. I'm taking the show on the road. Even more, I started doing these a couple of years ago, and now I'm trying to do more of them because I like telling stories instead of falling for a living. I got some
easier on the body.
Yeah, I got some quote unquote stand up or stories, evening withs we call them, evening with dates. George, I sent them to you. What do we got? Where we got them?
So you've got September 6th at the Comedy Cabin, and that is Stories from Under the Ring with Hornswoggle. Then you've got Friday, November 10th, an evening with Hornswoggle, comedy and stories from Under the Ring at the Tarleton Theater in Green Bay, Wisconsin. And then you've got December 16th, and I got to rely on you for that little bit of information.
That is in Madison. That one's in Madison, Wisconsin. So it's Janesville in September, Green Bay in November, Madison in December, and we're actually trying to add some more dates in between. But with my wrestling schedule, I'm going to have to start choosing one or the other. And I'm going to see how these go. Guys, if you're able to make one of these shows and you're a listener of the podcast, come up to me after the show and let me know. Thank you. This is an endeavor that I'm really just kind of trying to start into more. I really have fun doing these. It's the most nerve-wracking thing I ever do is the stand-up. I hate calling it stand-up, but the storytelling and all that, because I talk about it, the focus is solely on me, and I don't like it. If I mess up something, I can't blame the guy for not taking a good ass bite. So it's very, very odd for me to...
sentences I never thought I'd hear you say or anyone say.
But yeah, 3 huge dates, September, November, December, all in Wisconsin for now. We are branching out very, very soon with those as well. Mike Stricker is helping me. He always opens for me, and he's becoming a great comedy partner in crime.
Awesome. Well, we've done the plugs for the social. We've done the plugs for your live events and your upcoming appearances and your comedy shows. I think the only thing that's left to do is for me to start playing that outro music and for you to do that signature sign off.
Check out the Game Marks Pod.
Hey guys, Magic Candle Company is the best way to bring your favorite vacation scents to your home. The smell of a tropical beach, dark water ride, a cruise ship, or even a water park. The Magic Candle Company is the best way to bring those nostalgic and iconic scents from your favorite vacation spot to your home. Visit MagicCandleCompany.com and use code SWOGGLE to save 15% on your whole order and bring the magic home today.